Hey everyone, welcome to Keto Krime, Thought Crime. Today I thought I would do something a little different. I'm going to recap the second day of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, which happened today in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I thought it would be interesting just as this trial was going on to give you a few summaries on it until we get the verdict, and that way maybe better help you understand what's going on so that you don't necessarily have to, just believe what media tells you and everything. So you have somebody that's just folks like yourself watching the trial. So I thought we would do that. And don't worry, I will have some other true crime out for you this weekend, some classic cases as well as some others out for you this weekend. But this is just while this trial's going on, I want to talk about it. I'll do the same for the Daybell trial and of course the Josh Duggar trial, which is slated for the end of the month. So with that being said, I want to give a shout out to all my patrons and channel members. Couldn't do it without you. And if you'd like to support the channel, those links are down below. With that being said, let's jump in.
Keto and crime, keto and crime. We uncover the grime on keto and crime. Keto and crime, keto and crime. Now is the time for keto and crime.
So the Rittenhouse trial did get underway today for day 2 with both a few more pre-trial motions. They didn't get enough of that done yesterday, I suppose. And then the judge also gave the jury its instructions, which I thought was very, very interesting. They were under strict orders not to research the case, not to talk to anybody about the case, not to watch any media on the case. Fat chance of that because this is all over the media. I don't see how they can avoid it. I'm doubly surprised that this jury was not sequestered. I don't understand why, but they are being allowed to go home every day. So it'll be interesting to see if this jury can really be kept from being tainted. But anyway, after the jury instructions, there was the reading of the charges. And I thought I would recap those for you. Kyle Rittenhouse, whose mother lives in Antioch, Illinois. His father lives in Kenosha. Was 17 at the time that this occurred, back in August of 2020, and is now 18. But he faces the following charges. First-degree reckless homicide and use of a dangerous weapon. This revolves around the death of Joseph Rosenbaum, the first man, which if you've seen the famous video of it, I can't really show it here because YouTube will immediately strike it down because it is very violent. This is the first man that Rittenhouse shot. This is the one that on the video is caught running after Kyle Rittenhouse on one of the car lots. I believe it was car lot 3 or car lot 2. We'll get into that further in the trial. The Car Source auto lot, which had 3 different locations in Kenosha. The one of them was burned in the first night of looting, rioting, protesting, whatever you want to call it. Was burned down. So he was helping to protect, along with 2 friends, one of the other 2 car lots. So this is the one where he was running behind Kyle Rittenhouse at the car lot. You see him throw something. Some people said it was a plastic bag, an empty bag, a bag with some items in it, a bag with a brick in it, a bag with chemicals in it, a Molotov cocktail. It was a plastic bag. We will discuss later what was actually in it. And you also hear a shot fired from behind Kyle Rittenhouse. And so what the state with this particular charge is saying that without any regard for public safety, he shot Rosenbaum in the back. The next charge he is charged with is first-degree recklessly endangering safety, use of a dangerous weapon. This is for the second charge that is levied around the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum. It was for reporter Richard McGinnis, who was an independent reporter on the ground during the Kenosha riots. McGinnis told authorities that he was in the line of fire when Rittenhouse fired, and so that is the reason that this was tacked on. Now the third charge is different than the first charge. The first charge is the prosecution is stating outright Kyle did not intend to shoot Rosenbaum. It was not premeditated. But in the death of Anthony Huber, who in the video is the one when Rittenhouse was lying on the ground, did strike him twice with a skateboard. This charge revolves around his death. First degree intentional homicide, use of a dangerous weapon. So it's exactly the same as the first one, except they're saying he intended to shoot Mr. Huber. This carries a charge of. The third charge is attempted first degree intentional homicide, use of a dangerous weapon. As we've said, Rittenhouse was carrying an AR. But this particular charge revolves around the shooting of 𝐜𝐚𝐬𝐿, which in the video is the last person to be shot, the one that was seen jumping toward Rittenhouse twice, one with a drone pistol in his hand, and Rittenhouse shot him in the right arm. And this carries a maximum sentence of. And then finally, first degree recklessly endangering safety, use of a dangerous weapon. This is for the unknown man that we see that was the first one to encounter Rittenhouse after he fell down. He was running towards the police. Remember, he fell down. The man that you see jumping and attempting to face kick him, 2 shots were fired in the general direction of that person, even though he wasn't hit. That person has not been identified. He escaped into the night. Both lawyers said that. And this carries a. And then finally, the final charge is failure to comply with an emergency order from state or local government, that is, i.e. being out after the 8 p.m. curfew the night of the shootings. This is a offense punishable by up to $200 in fines. And so those are the charges that are facing Kyle Rittenhouse. The judge was very plain in his instructions, saying that in some of these, self-defense may not be a good defense, but the defense will attempt to prove that the shootings weren't necessarily his fault, such as, i.e., Anthony Huber grabbing the gun, which might have forcibly caused it to go off. That sort of thing. So we'll just see how that plays out. Then the state of Wisconsin had their opening arguments, and they just kind of laid out everything before us. They said this happened on August 25th, 2020. He had an AR-15 during the protests, riots, looting. That he was part of what they called immigrant violence coming into their city because of all the news coverage. They did say that he shot and killed Rosenbaum. He's alleging that Rittenhouse actually chased down Rosenbaum and shot him. Then said that the crowd began to chase Rittenhouse, claiming they were citizens attempting to stop a live shooter. He was punched and hit with a skateboard, though there was no intent to take his life. He's trying to kind of shoot down the whole self-defense argument right away. And then he talks about the deaths of each of the individuals that died, and kind of recounts the whole thing that you've seen in the very famous video, where it all ends with Rittenhouse walking with his hands up towards Kenosha police. And I thought it was very telling that the defense right away acknowledged, yes, there was a lot of looting, a rioting, it was not a peaceful situation, but then made the point that human life is more valuable than property, and no one should have been shot over property. And then right before the defense got up to make their opening statements, an argument kind of broke out between the two sides, because basically the defense was wanting to show some video and show some still pictures of each of the ones that were shot doing what they were doing before the encounters, kind of setting up the type of people, I suppose, that were shot, would be a better way to say it. But they argued back and forth, and the judge did allow some pictures, some video as part of the opening arguments, but said the majority of it would need to wait until the later trial. Then the defense had their opening statement, in which he said that Kyle was staying with his good friend Dominic Black, who was actually dating Rittenhouse's sister, and it was the one that had bought Kyle the gun because he could legally buy it within Wisconsin, because Kyle lived in Illinois where he could not possess it, and it was kept at his house. And they watched the looting and the burning and the violence going on in downtown Kenosha. Because his father lived there, because he worked as a lifeguard for the city, he decided he wanted to go down and kind of help. So he went down along with Black and other friend 𝐻𝐞𝐿, and they took graffiti off of one of the old high schools, and they ran into the owner of Car Source, the 3 car lots, and according to both Dominic Black, who would testify later the same day, they were asked by one of the owners of the car lots to guard his other remaining car lots, and were given keys to the building, even though one of the car source owners had said they never did that. This is what they are testifying. While there, they went down to guard car source lots 2 and 3. They met others that were also forming up to guard private property, the libertarian group that was seen on camera, and they all kind of helped guard these lots together. He then went on to say that this was all self-defense. He believed there was unlawful and forceful attack on his life and well-being, and he was perfectly within his rights to defend himself. Then he lays out essentially part of his case, talking about Rosenbaum and the other people that were shot. Basically saying that Rosenbaum and others, another man by the name of Joseph 𝐜𝐚𝐬𝐲 was seen on other video and other still pictures setting things on fire, including a dumpster and a trailer in front of a gas station not long before the actual shooting occurred. And also another gentleman known only as Yellow Pants Man, because he has not been identified, also being part of that whole fray. He then showed the video that was taken at the gas station of Rosenbaum getting angry that someone had put out a dumpster fire that he started, and getting in the face of BLM protesters and other protesters saying, "Shoot me, shoot me, shoot me," racial expletive. And then he talks about kind of what Kyle was doing prior as well. They also talk about Rosenbaum and his little crew walking up and down the road with bike chains and other things to use as weapons. There was also talk of that Rosenbaum had just gotten out of a hospital for mental health treatment, and that was his personal articles that were in the plastic bag. So basically, Kyle went out to render medical aid, if he could, first aid to some of the people that were at the gas station and out and about, and then got trapped, and he could not get back to Car Source 2. At the same time, his friend 𝐻𝐞𝐿, who was guarding Car Source 2, called him and said that Car Source 3, somebody was setting stuff on fire, so he grabbed a fire extinguisher and headed for Car Source 3. That is when the Shallow Pants Man accused Kyle of aiming a laser sight at him. Kyle just kind of walks away from that whole thing. These are videos and everything playing. And then he gets down there, puts out a couple of fires with the fire extinguisher, and then that's when Rosenbaum and Yellow Pants Man start chasing him, as well as 𝐜𝐚𝐬𝐲. Then, according to defense, 𝐜𝐚𝐬𝐲 actually fired behind Rittenhouse, causing him to turn around and think that Rosenbaum had fired at him. And then he said later on their witnesses would testify that Rosenbaum got in Rittenhouse's face, grabbed the gun, threatened him, and that's when he shot him. So that's the first shooting, and then we kind of know what happened there. He was running for the police. The other, he got knocked down, and then the other instances occurred. And then after that, the first witness was called. Rittenhouse's friend Dominic Black was actually called by the state and just testified that yes, he was the one that bought the AR-15, that yes, he, Smith, and Rittenhouse were contracted basically by the owners of Car Source to protect their property the next day. And then Dominic was evidently the one that Kyle Rittenhouse was seen calling after the shooting of Rosenbaum, and he did say that Kyle was very upset and was saying he was going to turn himself in. And so that's kind of where day 1 ended. Anxious to see what day 2 brings. I will be listening to this while I'm working during the day and bring you a complete recap at least 2 or 3 times during each week until this wraps up. And until then, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this kind of hammers everything out for you so you're just not listening to, media spin, whatever side of the line you're on in this. I think it's an important case for us to tap into. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back really soon. And with that being said, Keto Krime.